Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of The Harvest Season. My name is Al,
And I'm Johnny.
and we're here today to talk about farming games.
Woo!
Woo! Important note at the top, as always, transcripts are available for this episode in the show notes and on the website. So if you need that, go and get that. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm good. It's early morning on a Sunday, so we'll see how coherent I am by the end of the episode. But other than that, I'm excited to talk farming games. Like legitimately, that's what we're talking about today, right? It's just infinite farming games.
So many games. So I have found, like, as always, there's always games that appear and I'm like, oh, that's a game I didn't know about it. Add it to the list. And I don't always talk about those new games as I come across them because, like, sometimes you can get a bit overwhelmed. And we'd gotten to the point where I had like a couple of games and I was like, maybe it's time to go through these games. Let's do an episode on it. And then boom, a bunch came out this week. A bunch were announced this week. So it was the perfect week to do it, apparently. I just didn't know it.
It was well planned because usually these things happen like immediately after you record the episode. So
Yeah.
you've clearly nailed the timing after 4 years of doing the show.
We'll see. Let's see what happens after this recording.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we're going to talk all about those new games. We've got some other news that isn't new game related, which we'll go over. But first of all, Johnny, what have you been up to?
Well, Al, there's this new game. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called The Legend of Zelda, and it's very good. I know you've been playing it a whole ton. I'm pretty sure you're well ahead of where I am, but kind of anytime I have time, I am playing the new Zelda, and I love it. It's like, I know people are going crazy and saying it's maybe the best game ever made. Those people are probably accurate. It's probably the best game ever made.
I always I'm not saying it's not the best game ever made, right? Because I'm saying I'm not willing to say that. I'm not willing to say it is the best game purely because, like, I don't even know what that means, right? Like, how do you define the best game?
So I can answer this question.
Oh.
So you think of a game, and that game is better than all of the other games.
But what
That
is it?
game is the best game.
But what does it mean to be better? Right? Like, it is very subjective, right? Like, I think there are plenty of people. None of them are apparently on my friends list because almost everyone on my friends list on the Switch is playing it. Um, but there are people who don't like this type of game,
hmm
right? And so that would be a subjective thing to them. They would not enjoy that kind of game.
Yeah, I think what I personally really like about Zelda is just how open it is, right? It took the concept from Breath of the Wild of kind of go anywhere and do anything into actually do anything. The Ultra Hand mechanic, that's kind of the huge innovation that makes this game not just Breath of the Wild 1.5.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I think it's funny. There's two things that I find really funny about people playing this game, and they do something crazy, and they're like, "Oh, they'd never know we'd do this," and I'm like, "No, maybe not specifically that, but like, do you think they didn't have this sort of thing in mind when they designed this feature? Do you really think that they were designing this feature for you to make a boat to go across a river? No, of course they not. They knew that this would be incredible on social media. People would make these insane things, and it would get them so much positive. They knew that. Come on, like, we know that these people know how to make games, right? They've made two games in a row that people are saying are the best game ever made, right? Right? Like,
Yep.
they know what they're doing. They absolutely knew what people would do with this. And the other thing is when people do like a shrine and they're like, oh, this is not the proper way to do this shrine. And I'm like, there is no proper way. That's the point, right? Like,
There is an intended solution to make sure you can get through the shrine.
exactly.
But they're totally open to you cheesing the hell out of the shrine if that is the way that you
Absolutely.
get through it.
Like, I'm at the point where I've got over 100 shrines now, and anytime I go into a shrine that has one of those like pressure sensitive things that you're meant to do something with a ball, I'm like, no, and I just shoot it with a bomb arrow. I'm done with those. I'm fine with just getting through. Like, absolutely, like that. There's no specific way to do these things, and it's like even with some shrines, there isn't actually like a clear intended thing. Like, there's multiple different ways to do it. I think with a lot of them, there is like, here's the way that this is like the, as you say, suggested way to do it. But I think there are even shrines that's not the case.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I've only done about 30, so
Yeah.
you know, relatively speaking, I'm not that far in, and it would not surprise me if there's shrines like that. And
Hmm.
I was talking to some friends about Zelda last night, and they haven't played it yet. And they were asking, because I'm off doing all of the side stuff and haven't done any of the main story. They're like, "But won't you be overpowered when you come back to the story?" It's like, no, that's not really a thing. Like,
Uh-huh.
yes, I might have some powerful weapons by the time I come back, but it's not like the combat is the gating in this game. Really, I
No.
don't find like it's
No, if you've played Breath of the Wild and you got good at the combat in Breath of the Wild, you're already overpowered for this game.
yep,
Right? Like, and sure, you can get new weapon and stuff, but you can get like the best weapon and the best bow and the best shield almost immediately in the game if you cared about it. Right? That like they're right there.
exactly.
You can go and get them.
Yep.
Like nothing's stopping you. And so much if you are good at dodge, this is the thing about Breath of the Wild. This is actually why I love the combat in these games. Is if you are good at dodging, you can beat any enemy with almost any weapon. It'll take longer if you have lower powered weapons, obviously. You might get a bit bored. But you can, if you're good at it, you can do anything with any of these enemies.
Yeah, and the thing I like, right, because I am not particularly good at the dodging mechanics. I don't have great timing, but even I can there's ways to cheese round the combat, right? And so I could go like I've gone and taken on some stuff that's technically a lot more difficult than the quality of the weapons should let me beat, but with all of the ability to build stuff and bomb arrows and like all of the weapon fusing stuff, you can get through some pretty difficult battles, pretty easily if you want.
Yeah, just bomb everything. And
Yeah.
especially if you get to the point where you've got a significant number of batteries for the Zonai stuff, you can make some pretty dangerous weapons with the with like the charge beams and stuff like that. Like you can.
Oh
I
my
saw
god.
someone
And
someone defeated one of the Gleeoks with literally 30 seconds with a Zonai weapon. Like they're just some of them you can make insanely overpowered things.
yeah, and for me, this is the most ridiculous thing about this game is so last night I finally kind of went into the underground. So explored and done a lot of the towers and done some of the sky islands, and I'd done like just that very intro quest where you get the camera in the
Hmm.
underground, and that was all I had done.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, maybe I should go into the underground and do like the second quest that's down there, or the second quest that you get given to go down there, and spent the entire night down there. And why is the underground so fun? And like, because to me, it's this thing that didn't even need to be in the game, right? If they were just like, here's Breath of the Wild plus Sky Islands, everyone would have been like, great, this game is amazing.
Yeah.
And then they put this entire third map into the game, and it wasn't even the big promotion part. And it's so good. It has no right to be that much fun to
Yeah.
explore and just I don't know. It's amazing.
And there's also there's our obviously like there's loads of enemies down there that are just like the normal version but with gloom on them, which is it's fine. Like people get annoyed about these. I don't think that's a problem. Like I actually quite like that because it's like it's playing around with the usual enemies and making you have to think about them differently. But there are also completely exclusive enemies down there as well that you only get in the depths that you wouldn't find anywhere else, which is fun as well.
Yeah, and I'm not really impacted by the like gloom enemies. I'm running minimum hearts, so
Mm,
they're not that different to the to the regular
mm.
enemies from my perspective. So
What run away, run
pretty
away and
much.
bomb them.
Yep.
Um, yeah, yeah. Definitely avoid the gloom, Lionel. Yeah, this is not a podcast about Zelda, so we're going to stop talking about this just now, and we will be doing. I guarantee you, we will be doing a Greenhouse episode about Zelda because I think we have a lot more to talk about it. So look out for that. Probably a couple of weeks, but it will come out. But yeah, okay, cool. Anything else other than Zelda?
As usual, just being Marvel snapping up a storm. It's still a really good game. I have no idea what they're trying to do in order to monetize this game because other than season passes, like I just look at the bundles that they release and I just am so fascinated by who would be picking up these things.
I think the season pass is for most people who will, if you're going to put any money in, you're going to do the season pass, right? Like that
Yep.
is the thing to do. I think the bundles are for the whales, right? The whales will spend a ridiculous amount of money and they'll do whatever. It's like, oh yeah, I'll drop 50 quid for that, of course. Like some people will
I
put
would say
insane
in
amounts
most
of money
games
in.
I am a whale and it's too much for me.
I
Like
don't
I
know.
don't mind.
I feel like probably we just don't fully understand what whales are. Like whales are not
That could
like,
be.
oh yeah, I've put in 200 quid this year, right? Like that's not a whale. That's a decent chunk of money, but it's not a whale. A whale is like, yeah, all my free money's going in this. you know?
I guess by that definition, I'm definitely not. But I mean, yeah, it's their pricing is insane. But High Evolutionary just came out, which is a very fun card. Has really taken over the metagame for the last few days, and I may have been a horrible person and gone back to playing Galactus just because it really effectively dunks on all of these High Evolutionary decks. But High Evolutionary is a really fun card, and like just the design that they've been doing with Marble Snap has been really, really good. They've been making a bunch of sort of small tweaks on a weekly basis, which has been uh, awesome for the metagame. And yeah, I really like it as a little phone game that kind of just keeps ticking over. I thought I would have bounced off by now, but I'm really still feeling it. So I love Snap. Are you still snapping, Al?
Not regularly. I pop in every so often and do stuff, but I've not really done for the last couple of weeks. I still, it's. I think I mentioned this last time we were chatting about it. Is like I try so hard to be the type of person that will just play a game for 10 minutes a day, but it just is not me, and I have never managed to do that. So like I'm either playing a game or I'm not playing a game. So no, like well, this is the thing. Like even with Zelda, right? Like I can do something in 10 minutes. So why wouldn't I do something in 10 minutes? Like it's not like a game where once you start, you're in it for an hour.
No, it absolutely is because it's the sort of game where you start with a thing in mind and then doing the thing that you had in mind takes so long because you get distracted doing a million other
Yeah,
things.
yeah. So anytime I think my point is like anytime I would possibly play Snap, I'm just playing Zelda instead, right? And if I
That's
was
fair.
playing Snap, I'd be like, why am I not playing Zelda? Because I'm enjoying that game. So I've been playing a lot of Zelda. I was just double checking. My Switch says I've been played for over 70 hours on Zelda now, which is kind of stupid considering it's been 2 weeks and that's nearly a full-time job over 2 weeks. Um, So yeah, I suspect I'm probably pretty close to the ADHD burnout part of the first play of Tears of the Kingdom. So I suspect at some point in the next week I will end up putting it down for a few months. But we'll see. That is how I play my games. I have to do it as much as possible because I know the end is coming, where my brain tells me I'm done for now.
Yeah. See, I think I'll be playing this game for like the rest of the year. And it's a shame because I'm looking at other games that are coming up and coming out and I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to find time for these games around Zelda because that's just me for the rest of the year, I think.
I'll keep coming back to it, but I don't think I'll be playing as much as I have done just now in over the next month. Like
I
it'll
would I would
just vary.
hope not. That feels like an unsustainable pace for the rest of the year.
35
and
hours a
and
week every week.
and we need new episodes of this show to come out. So
Yeah. I've got a game I need to play this week for next week's episode, so I definitely won't be playing 35 hours this week because that is literally all any second of free time I have. That 35 hours. Oh man, that's a lot of time. Oh, the other thing is, obviously, I've not been playing it, but I watched the PlayStation Showcase on Wednesday, and I'm very excited for Spider-Man coming out. So,
I believe you mean Spider-Man 2.
do we need to get into this?
We don't need to. I just, I know how much you love that name, so I just
Look,
wanted to make sure we were.
what I said to you before the showcase, Johnny, was if they announce a release date and they haven't given us a new name, I'm accepting that that's the name. They haven't given us a release date. They didn't give us a release date on Wednesday. I don't know why they've not given us a release date, right? Like, this game is probably like 4 months away and they've not given us a release date. Um, so I'm still not accepting it, right? It's the
Okay.
third game. Well, the
Okay. You
what
can
sixth
continue to
game
live in
actually?
denial.
I do live in denial. But it looks like a good game. I'm excited. It looks like there's a bigger area. It looks like there's ridiculous number of enemies as usual. I don't know how they managed to stick so many enemies in. I'm really interested to see whether the Green Goblin is actually in it because they teased that in a previous game, but they didn't show anything about that. So maybe he'll be like a surprise end game boss or something like that. But then if he is in it, you've got Lizard, you've got Craven, you've got Green Goblin. Like that's quite a lot of enemies to start with, and there's no way it'll just be the three of them, right? Because of Venom, of course, as well. What's going to happen with the Venom stuff? I'm really interested in that because at the beginning of the trailer, it looks like Peter is just kind of like bonded with Venom and just quite happy and just going on with his life. But then there's a weird bit at the end where you're like, oh yeah, no, things are clearly not okay there. And so how are things going with that? I thought it was weird halfway through. I was like, why is Peter so okay with this? Like he's not acting weird. He's just kind of just doing things, but he's got new new abilities. And I'm intrigued to see how that happens because they cannot do the thing where he overcomes Venom and gets rid of Venom because then Peter becomes less useful a Spider-Man than Miles, right? They can't do that. They have to have a point where you can be playing both of them and they both have different abilities, but both on top of what the base Spider-Man abilities were in the first game. And so what are they going to do with that story? Are they just going to get to the point where he's just okay with Venom and Venom's not causing Peter any issues? I don't know. I'm intrigued to see.
And it's going to be interesting to see, right? Because in theory, having the two Spider-Men to play as means that they could go in a direction where it's like, I don't want to say less fun, but maybe have a little bit more of a loss of control feeling with the Venom thing, which is okay because you can always go back to Miles if you want to, like, the more classic Spider-Man experience, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that.
Yeah, I mean, Miles has different abilities. He's got and this is where I get really annoyed. The abilities they gave Miles in the second game was called Venom ability. So you've got Miles who has Venom and Peter who has Venom, but they're different Venoms. I don't know
Look,
why.
just don't think about it too hard. Maybe that's why this is Spider-Man 2. You know, it's technically a sequel, but don't think too hard about the first one.
So the other thing I'm intrigued about is how they're going to do you can play as either Spider-Man. Is it going to be you can choose whichever one you want for a specific situation, or is it going to be you switch between them as your story goes, but they decide when you switch? It's not quite clear from the thing that we had. There was a point where they switched and it kind of showed it kind of like it could be, oh, this is now the time that we switch, or it could be like, oh, it was just kind of hinting that you could switch now, by the way, if you wanted, but they could actually do it at any point. I'm intrigued with that.
Interesting.
I'm kind of like, and this goes back to the Zelda conversation, right? Like, I'm not a huge fan of puzzle games in general or puzzles in games because I quite often feel like they are expecting me to have a very specific thing to do, and I don't find that fun. Like, oh, I need to figure out what they want me to do, right? Like, that's not fun puzzle to me. And I suspect we might end up in a situation where you're like, oh, you can only do this with Peter, or you can only do this with Miles, and you have to figure out which one they want you to do because only Venom's ability can do this bit, or only the Venom ability can do this bit, right? Like, it doesn't, I don't find that sort of fun, and that's why I love Zelda so much, is because, like, it doesn't matter what they wanted you to do, you can do whatever. That's fun puzzle to me. It's like, figure out a way to solve this, not figure out our jigsaw, right? Like, it's not a one size fits all thing.
Yeah, my assumption was going to be that you could kind of free switch if you were just doing the open world stuff, but there might be certain missions that are Miles or Peter
that
locked,
might be that would be likely, I think. Yeah, but cool. that still leads me towards the assumption that there's going to be puzzles that only work with one or the other, and that stuff just annoys me. That's not a puzzle, right? That's just like, oh, you just need to remember to switch. Like, that's not fun. But anyway.
No, like, I'm with you on puzzles, right? Like, and it's one of the hard things about puzzles in games is when they have specific solutions, and then you look it up, and so many times it's like you get stuck on something, and it's often because you've worked out how to solve the puzzle, but you didn't do step 2A that you have to do to technically get all of the right pieces in place, and it's just like, recognize that I understand how to solve the puzzle and let me move on.
Yeah. Anyway... I think that might be our longest "What have you been up to" section. So, should we get on to some news?
Let's do it.
So, first of all, we have an update on the Roots of Pacha situation, in that The game is back on Steam now, and the two companies, the dev team, so did Den, and the publisher is it Critivo? Critivo?
Critivo?
Thank you for suggesting a third pronunciation. um, well, anyway, doesn't matter. The two of them have amicably parted ways under terms that are mutually beneficial, and I hope you heard the air quotes in that. Uh,
I mean, the statement that they put out on Twitter is very clearly a statement that was written by lawyers,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't think we'll hear anything
no,
more about went on
no,
behind the scenes. And to be honest, we don't need to hear more.
no.
It's good that it's available back on Steam, and it sounds like there's a way forward, which is awesome. Probably for me, the other piece of news that was interesting coming out of this, just in some of the Twitter replies from the Roots of Pacha Twitter, is that the team's actively working on a roadmap that they're hoping to put out next week. And that should cover things like when Roots of Pacha is likely to come to consoles as well as new content.
Yeah, I agree. Fun.
But if you want to know more about Roots of Pacha, listen to last week's episode.
Yes, yeah, great episode by Cody and Kev on the game. And I said before that I was going to listen to it to decide whether I wanted to buy the game. The answer is yes, but probably not yet, purely because I have so much going on in terms of games. As the rest of the news section will show.
That is exactly where I landed. I was like, I'm excited for this to come out on consoles in like 3 months when hopefully I have some time to play it.
Yeah. Maybe this could become my like summer game where I play it when I'm on holiday and I don't really have any other things. Because like for those who haven't listened to the podcast before, there's a month in the summer where I'm away. I'm not on holiday. I'm doing some things for some of the weeks and I'm working for the other weeks, but I'm not at home and I don't want to have to deal with the podcast. So we pre-record a bunch of episodes. So I'll have like a month and a little bit of just like not needing to think about other games for the podcast. So it might be nice to do that then, but we'll see. Next, we have the date for the Wholesome Direct. So we knew this was coming, but we now have the date. It is going to be on Saturday, the 10th of June, or Sunday for some people. Saturday, the 10th of June in America and Europe, and Sunday in, probably, I don't know where the line will be based on the time. 6
It
p.m.
would definitely be Sunday in New Zealand. It's the great thing about living here is anytime you see a date announced for something, you can say, okay, I'll just make that one day later on the calendar because that's when it actually will be happening for us.
Yeah. I hadn't actually noticed the time before. 9 a.m. Pacific. That is 5 p.m. for me. Oh, the worst time. The worst time. Literally, that is the worst time for me because if it's earlier than that, I can do it while I'm working. If it's then in that 2-hour period between 5 and 7, that is the period that I'm dealing with my kids. I'm getting them tea, I'm getting them ready for bed, I'm getting them into bed. 7 p.m. and later, that works. Before 5 p.m., that works. 5 and 7, that doesn't. Oh, it's really annoying. Whatever.
I think what's most concerning about this Wholesome Games thing is that they're going to have footage from over 70 games.
Yeah, I mean, most of those you won't care about.
Too many games.
Most of those you will not care about because, guarantee you, because I think that's roughly the same number they had last year. And I think we ended up having like 6 to talk about on the podcast. And out of those, you'd probably not care about 3 of them. So
70 games. That's just too many games coming out. We need less games.
And this isn't even all the games, right? This is just they will have turned down about half of them again.
Well, hopefully there's something for everybody in the Wholesome Direct.
Yes, and we will do an episode talking about everything that was in it. Hopefully. Oh, that is a busy day for me. Oh wait, it's a Saturday. It doesn't matter about when work is. I'm an idiot.
Well, now that we've come full circle on that one, shall we talk Above Snakes? Which is
why not?
Now verified for the Steam Deck, which is awesome. And it's out now, right?
It is.
Did
It
come
is.
out?
It came out as you're listening to this. It came out a week ago. It came out on Wednesday.
And it looks great on the screenshot that they've got of the. Well, it's not a screenshot; it's a photo of Above Snakes running on a Steam Deck. But
same thing, right? Yeah, just a
yeah.
poor man's screenshot. Yeah,
yeah, that's exciting.
yes, I will play this at some point, but I can't play it just now because I kickstarted for the Switch version, which isn't out yet, and they have not replied to me about switching my key to Steam. So, if anyone from Above Snakes is listening, I've sent you a message. Please give me a Steam key.
Also, please give us a release date for the Switch, even if it's like ages. I would just like some detail on when, because I really want to play Above Snakes, and there has not been any detail on when it's actually going to come out on the Switch.
100% it won't be this year.
Ah, but it was on my 2023 like most anticipated list, Al.
Yeah. Look, don't blame me. I am not. I'm not a developer.
You are the
Right.
closest thing I know to the developer, though, so.
That is a very, very low bar. I have talked about it.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh dear. Next we have Coral Island. The summer update is out now, and I am not going to play it yet. I've got too many things to do, but I'm very excited for this because it unlocks the final bit of the mines that I was waiting for it to update because I need to get into that fire gate and get that last giant out of there, get some osmium ore.
You've got to be most excited for the chicken stare off and the cow racing, right?
Yes, so it adds 3 animal festivals. The rodeo challenge, test your skills on a mechanical bull. Chicken stare off, see whose chicken has the strongest stare. Okay, and cow race, find out which cow is the fastest in town. Because of course, as we all know, the best animal to race is cows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
I love the idea of a chicken stare off because I don't know if you're aware of this. It's kind of like an old wives' tale, but I've seen it happen a few times. But you can actually hypnotize chickens.
yes,
Um,
you can.
yeah. Oh, okay. Amazing. Because usually when I say this to people, they look at me like I'm just
No,
growing
it's
an extra
100%
head. But
real. It's 100%
yeah,
real. I have not done it because it's very mean.
it
But
is.
I used to have some chickens that I took care of. And I am aware that the hypnotizing is real. It's weird and mean, but real.
But if you want your chicken to win the chicken stare off, I would suggest hypnotizing it. That might be a good place to start.
Hmm. They also chickens have very stable heads. They work very much like a gimbal, so you can like strap a camera to a chicken's head, and it's going to be very stable video.
Interesting.
Obviously, it has to be quite a small camera. Like
But
you're not
still.
sticking a red camera on it, but like one of the GoPro minis would probably work.
Yeah. Wow. Who was expecting actual animal facts on this here?
It makes me sound like I was like an actual farmer. No, I just had 12 chickens, right? That's not unusual, is it?
And, well, look, I'm from New Zealand, so no, that's not unusual. But I'm not sure how much that translates to the rest of our listener base.
Chickens are such fun. You know what I find most funny is people get really confused en masse when you talk about the fact that chickens can fly. They're like, what do you mean chickens can fly? Chickens can fly. The reason
Yeah.
they're not, you don't see them flying in farms is because they clip their wings. Like they're they're birds. They're not ostriches. They can fly.
Now, maybe not the most efficient flyers, but
No, they are not. They look a lot like pigeons when they fly, and you're like, how on earth are you staying in the air?
yep.
Although it's really funny. Even when you clip their wings, they can still use the wings to like jump like 6 or 7 feet high. So it still can escape most
Yeah.
things without a roof.
Or you can occasionally see when that they get onto the roof of their chicken
Yeah,
coop, which is really fun to
yeah.
confuse townies.
Fun times. Moving on from the chicken conversation, yeah, there's lots of stuff. One thing that I am very interested in that I wasn't aware that was coming was sprinkler attachments. So you can upgrade your sprinklers to have auto seed and auto fertilize on them as well. And yes, 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 yes,
And that's something I'm surprised we haven't seen in more farming games because it
yes,
feels like one of those automation things that should be in a number of games. I know it was
yeah,
in Ooblets with the Oob Coops,
yeah.
still the best feature of that game. And so it's good to see it here because it's just one of those things that I'm surprised doesn't make its way into more games.
Yeah, I think Ooblets had the most. So they had you can basically do everything as long as you put seeds in the Oob coop, the like little storage. They will do everything you need. And Stardew had you could get the Jumino hut and they would go and harvest, but I don't think they would ever plant or fertilize.
No, they would not.
So
So
I don't know of any other game where you can plant automatically and There's possibly a fertilizing one, but I can't think. I've just got in the niggling in the back of my brain that says there's one that has an automatic fertilizing, but I can't think of what it is.
No, me
Anyway,
either. But exciting that this is coming to Coral Island.
yes, yes, go play the summer update. Bev, it's time. Go play more Coral Island. Next we have Harvest Moon: The Winds of Anthos. We are this game. I don't know what to think of this game. Let's go through
No, we have to accept we're excited for this game. That is where we are at now, Al.
some level of excitement, certainly. Look, let's go through the easy and clearly exciting stuff. The plush is out. They've decided what the plush is for this game. It is a sleeping cow. It's amazing.
It's the best.
It's good. It's good. Their cows are still not as good as the Story of Seasons cows, but it's still a very good cow. You can pre-order the game now and get that plush. I believe if you pre-order on the Natsume website, there's a second pre-order bonus that they haven't announced yet. Can't pre-order outside the US as far as I can see. Certainly can't here, and almost certainly you won't be able to, Jonnie.
No, I definitely cannot.
Not that you're going to, because you are strongly against pre-ordering games.
Well, when there's a pre-order bonus, it can become flexible. For that cow plush, to be honest, if I could, I probably would.
That is a good cow plush. What else have we got this long list? So we've got the consoles now, because I think previously it just said PC and console. So now it's officially coming to Switch, PS5, PS4, and the Xbox Series. And of course on Steam. We've got a new screenshot of the player character meeting a tiny harvest goddess.
Yeah, this looks like some harvest. Like this looks like a screenshot from a Harvest Moon game. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's continuing to look, in my opinion, as good as the previous screenshots. Like, I really like this art style. I think it's done really well. We're gonna not know until we actually see some footage and then get our hands on the game whether it actually is like that or whether they've just really given us very specific screenshots. And we got release date 26th of September. So really stretching the definition of summer there.
Yeah, I mean they're pushing it right till the end, right?
It depends how you like. I will die on this hill, right? People talk about summer and spring like they are clearly defined seasons. There are at least 4 definitions of the seasons if you ignore the Southern Hemisphere, right? Like these things are really not clear, because like, yeah, there's the kind of well, in fact, I just double checked. This doesn't even fit in the summer definition that people have. The summer definition that is most commonly used actually finishes summer at the 23rd of September.
No one actually thinks that way, Al. But people just go by months. It's easier to go by months.
But but this is the thing, right? Oh my word! No definition includes the 26th of September in summer, right?
It
so
does.
like this
the definition
which one?
that summer is July, August, September.
What definition is that?
One
it's
I
not a definition
literally
of
just
summer.
made up to prove my point.
So there's the astronomical season, which to me is just wild, which goes from the summer solstice to the autumn equinox. Is wild to me, because the idea that like the longest day of the year is the start of summer is bizarre to me. That's the middle of summer, not the start of it, right? And I don't understand why you would ever use that. But if we leave that one aside, there's the meteorological season, which is also commonly used, goes from the 1st of June to the 31st of August, doesn't include the 26th of September. And then there's the one that I prefer, of the generally used ones, this is the one I prefer. I actually have a much more radical definition of the seasons, but this one is May, June, July. I think that makes much more sense to me as a summer. That's the Celtic seasons. But none of these definitions include the 26th of September. It's not summer.
I agree, it's not summer.
Anyway. My word. Sorry. Did not mean to get into a rant about seasons. These things just happen. Seasons are stupid. Stop pretending like they're clearly defined.
Anyway, Harvest Moon, Winds of Anthos, release date 26th of September, not summer.
Yes, not summer. Stop saying it's summer. Cool. Let's see what comes out of that game. The last non-new game news is Everdream Valley is releasing on the 30th of September. This is where everyone goes, "Oh, I forgot about that game." So there you go.
That was literally my responses. Oh, I forgot about this game.
Fun fact, right? You can buy this game just now. They're calling it pre-purchase, but if you buy the game now, you get access to it now before the release date.
Okay.
Which,
Okay. We've officially gone too far.
but this is
Just buy the game.
Isn't that just that's just buying the game and playing it? Because this is the thing, right? Like, who can access the game without buying it, right? So if you buy the game before the release date, you get access to the game. Surely that's just the release date.
This is some silly 1.0 argument, right? Like that's what this is. Like they're like, oh, but we're on version 9.
No, they're not in early access. They've not done an early access.
What?
This is not early access. The game is not officially released. If you go onto Steam, it says coming the 30th of May. But they said on their most recent, or so their second most recent news event is prior access starts today. You can start playing today. If you don't want to count the last days to the full launch, don't worry, we got you covered. You can pre-order Everdeen Valley anytime and unlock access to the game before the official release on the 30th of May.
The game is released. Okay.
Yes, yes, it is. Because how do you, like, if you're not buying the game, you're not getting the game, right? So, like, what? That's just releasing the game. I don't understand how this isn't just released. How is this game not out? It's out. You can buy it and play it.
So, the news, Everdream Valley is out. You can buy it and go and play it.
Well, of course, the funny thing is, like, the 30th of May is the day before this podcast episode comes out anyway, so yes, the game is out. I just... Oh, right. My word.
That is some silly news.
Shall we talk about some new games?
Yes. Let's do that.
Marvelous did I don't know what it was called, like a press, like a direct, a Nintendo Direct, basically, right? Like that's what they did.
Game Showcase is what they called it.
Is that what they call it? Oh yes, so it is. Marvelous Games Showcase 2023, which shows they're not planning on doing another one this year because they just called it 2023, not May 2023. And my word, they give us a lot to talk about. They have announced 4 games that we care about here. Well, care about, kind of. There are 2 Story of Seasons games and 2 Rune Factory games that they've announced. Where to start?
Which is like so many games.
Madness, absolute madness. And it's not one of these like, oh yeah, one of them's a remake and one of them's a new. None of these are remakes. These are all new games. Let's start with the Story of Seasons stuff because that's the stuff like we actually care about. Sorry, Rochelle. I don't like Rune Factory. So they've announced one of the games which is just kind of standard, and I expect it'll be kind of like Pioneers of Olive Town, but with a new place and a new story. Like they tend to do these games in kind of like 2 very similar ones, kind of like how Pokemon does quite a lot. Like not exactly the same, but like built on the same kind of foundations and feeling very similar. Like Story Seasons 1 and Story Seasons Trio of Towns, they were very similar sort of games, just in different environments and different stories. So I expect it'll play a lot like Pioneers of Olive Town, with some enhancements.
Yeah, I think the one thing that they said for the new sort of standard game is that they're working very hard on the visuals, but they showed a screenshot that I mean, I guess it does look better than Pioneers of Olive Town, but not.
It looks more zoomed in.
yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it just looks more zoomed in. Like it does, and it's not like Pioneers of Olive Town looked bad, but it's
it's not like, oh wow, this is an amazing looking game. It's
exactly
this is fine. But yeah, it does seem weird to like highlight, oh, we're really working hard on the environment, and then show a screenshot that looks fine.
Yeah.
Like the animals look, I mean, they look adorable, right? But like, we're not looking for photorealistic here. Like, what are you? I mean, I can't complain about this. Like, I like the look of the game, but yeah, I agree.
It felt like a weird thing to say.
Yeah,
it was just an odd thing to say in the context of Story of Seasons games, right? Like,
yeah, very odd. There's literally nothing else to talk about. We got like 3 screenshots
Yep.
of different seasons, and we saw a cow and a sheep and some dogs, which are very cute dogs. Are they Shiba? They're meant to be Shiba Inus, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Very cute dogs. Um, why are there some green trees in this autumn screenshot? Because they're not evergreen trees.
They're pine trees.
Are they
Yeah,
pine
they're
trees?
evergreen. Yeah.
Oh.
Or they're the how every video game has decided that they're going to do evergreen trees where it's the one that's cone shaped.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Um, yeah, we'll presumably have more to talk. Like, I mean, this game isn't coming out this year, right? Like next year if we're lucky. Um, I suspect 2025 for at least one of well, at least one of these two story seasons games. The second one is we have even less information about. We don't have any screenshots or anything, and this is highly focused on multiplayer, which is an interesting way to do things. I think this is good, and bear with me on this. I think so. I've come to agree with. We're going to talk about him later. Do you know Yahtzee Croshaw, the zero punctuation guy?
Yes.
So he has been saying a lot recently that you cannot design design a game that is both single player and multiplayer focused and them both be good. And I think I've come to agree with him on that. And I think this is a good way to do things in that if you want to do some multiplayer stuff, do a new game for it and focus it around that because then you can make it work really well. Like Stardew Valley was fine with its multiplayer, but like it was just the same game, right? It was play the game but with multiple people. And he did
Yeah.
well with what he had to work there, but it's not like it's an amazing multiplayer game, right?
No, and it's very easily, in my view, the worst way to play Stardew Valley because
Yeah.
it's just not inherent to the design of the game, right? The
No.
game is about your experience
Exactly.
in the valley, and adding other people to that
Yes. Yeah.
changes that experience drastically.
Well, you even have to just think about the fact that someone has to create a game on their machine and then share
Yep.
it with you, and you are creating a house on their farm, right? It's not a shared farm. So, like, even that, like, technically, that is obviously how he had to do things. Like, he doesn't have a server or it, blah, 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 blah. But I think the point is, like, I like the idea of a multiplayer focused game. I'll be interested to see how it works. I wonder whether it's like MMO or like an always on game. Maybe not MMO because it's like presumably low numbers because you're just playing with your friends, but like it'll be an always on game so that it's like hosted on a server so that you have that aspect of someone doesn't have to be on, right? Anybody can connect to this
Yeah.
at any point. We don't have to all be there at the same time.
Well, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do from a like seasons perspective and those things as well, because that's for me one of the big
Yeah,
things that doesn't
interesting.
work in multiplayer farming games is if you and I start playing and we play through spring together, and then you want to keep playing through summer, and I
Yeah.
need to take that time off, and then I come back and it's autumn. Like I feel like I've missed something. So I'm going to be really interested to see how they approach it, and it's a great thing I think that they're approaching it with, hey, we're doing a multiplayer
Yeah.
focused game.
Yeah.
Devil's in the detail.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm starting to wonder whether it might be a real time game.
I hope so, because I feel like that's kind of where you need to go in order for it.
It feels like, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of real time games, as I've talked on our Animal Crossing podcast episodes. That makes it sound like there's an Animal. I don't on the episodes of this podcast where we have talked about Animal Crossing. I'm not a huge fan of real time games, but it does feel like the best way to balance, as you say, those issues of when people are playing and when people are not playing, and this way it's like everybody's missing out because the game is always playing. So
Yeah.
it's impossible to not miss out. Therefore, you don't worry about it because it's just always happening. And if you are going to worry about that, you're not going to play it.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we'll see. I'm intrigued. Yeah, get that. Give me games.
Yeah, but realistically, neither of these games is coming out till 2024 at the earliest, right?
Yeah. I they'll probably not come out the same year either. Maybe we'll get one next year and one in 2025. Maybe it's 2025, 2026. But yeah, like they've not given us names. They've not given us even vague release windows. They've given us 4 screenshots of one of the games and concept art of another game, which tells you literally nothing because it's literally just a farmer sitting with a cup of tea or coffee and another farmer holding a carrot, clearly showing the multiplayer aspect of it, and Mount Fiji's in the back, right? Like nothing else is it's not telling you anything about the multiplayer aspect. It's not telling you anything about the game. So that's which is fine, but the point is like that's even further back. I think the main one comes out first, and then the multiplayer one comes out after that.
That was definitely the impression that they gave.
But both of them are diligently under development. I do love when you like automatically translate these things. Clearly, that is like a standard phrase in Japanese that just
Yep.
sounds so weird in English. Good fun. So yeah, the next two were two Rune Factory games, and my word, I look forward to these coming out in 10 years. The first one is Rune Factory 6. I mean, presumably it'll be like Rune Factory 5, but different.
Yeah, and that was literally all they announced was the title. I don't even remember seeing like any concept art or a screenshot or anything.
They showed they showed a screenshot next to the Rune Factory 6 logo, but it was a screenshot from the other game. So yeah, there was literally nothing. It's as much as we got for Rune Factory 5 initially. So yeah. I don't know. Will they have problems like they had with Rune Factory 5? I really feel like they need to stop really announcing games before they actually have a game to show you. Because the Rune Factory 5 one was a bit of a joke, how long it was between a logo and anything else, any other information.
And this announcement did not inspire confidence that it's like, again, this is something that's like we might hear something next year on it based on what we heard this time around.
We're not hearing anything on Rune 36 next year. We're not hearing anything about this game again until 2025. They're not even going to talk about its existence again until 2025. Come on, let's not be optimistic here. The other one, which looks like it's much further on in development, and I wouldn't be surprised if this came out next year, is because we got much more of this than any of the other three games we're talking about, and that is Rune Factory Project Dragon. I really hope that's not the final name, and that is a working title.
I hope that is the final name.
Project Dragon, really.
Project Dragon. I'm into this name. I think it's kind of awesome.
Look, it's better than Spider-Man 2. I'll give you that. So this is very interesting. So I suspect the reason they've announced these two together is because they wanted to talk about the fact that there's a theme between these two games, and it's East and West. And the Project Dragon is focused in the east of the world that they have in Rune Factory, which we've never been to apparently before. And this is the gameplay is you're riding around on a dragon, and you get to explore floating islands. I mean, I'm instantly in getting to ride on a dragon.
Yeah, look, when I was watching the trailer for this game, Al, my initial reaction was like, oh, this looks like, a sort of action adventure, gonna have to compete with Zelda. If a game's gonna compete with Zelda, attractive anime people riding dragons is a pretty good way to get me to play the game. Like,
Absolutely.
this game looks kind of awesome.
Yeah, they've even got a screenshot. They know exactly what they're doing. They've got a screenshot of the dragon, you riding the dragon, with lightning bolt next to it. Like what's not to love there? And these are good looking dragons. These are not like, oh, these look angry. These are dragons. My word. Yeah, give me my dragons.
They look old and angry, and
Yeah.
then there's like just some beautiful, Eastern anime-inspired landscape shots. Like the floating islands thing seems like cool, and like just because Zelda is sort of the topic of the day. These look very different. Like it's not just some people thought about some Sky Island stuff and it's all kind of the same. This looks very different in its execution.
Yeah. I think for me, the make or break for this game will be the combat. I hate the combat in Rune Factory 5 with an absolute passion. I hate it. If they can make it better, then I would love this game. If it's not, I will hate this game.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but this kind of gave me Pokemon Legends vibes, where it's like the, not main series for whatever that actually means, sort of game where
More
we're trying
experimental.
something. Yeah, more experimental. Like, it definitely gave that sort of vibe to me. So, I'm not, like, based on what they showed, I don't know how big I would expect this game to be relative to a main series Rune Factory game.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the floating islands. Like, do different islands have different seasons, that sort of stuff? Because don't forget, this is still a farming game. Rune Factory is a farming game, even though it's focused around combat as well. It is still a farming game. So, will they focus on things like that? Will you have? Because I know in Rune Factory 5 you can have like multiple farms on the backs of dragons, which is not as exciting as it sounds if you've not played the game. So could you do a similar sort of thing where you have multiple farms on different sky islands in different seasons? Maybe. Don't know.
That would be a cool idea. I like that idea.
I
And was
have
there
I
another
have
game
game
that we...
design ideas. Give me give me money. I'll give you more game design ideas.
I was gonna say, it's like, you're surely not gonna volunteer to like actually develop these games out, because you know what a deep dark hole that can become.
No, I don't want to actually develop the games, right? I wanna have the ideas and make other people
Yes,
do
yeah,
the job. I
yeah.
said that in a podcast recently, didn't I? Like I don't want to do the thing. I want someone else to do the thing. I
You
just
want the
want to be
creative
the
director
one.
title?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, I am a software developer, right? So I know about software development. I'm not a game developer. I'm not a game developer for a very specific reason, because game development is not fun, right?
It's
Like,
not fun, and I don't think it pays that well, because
it
that's what lots of
doesn't.
developers want to do.
Absolutely.
So it's
And it's
yeah.
full of crunch, and it's full of just not. Yeah, no, no, I'm not doing that. But as you say, creative director, I could do that. I've got ideas. I'll give you my ideas for money. Um, Last point is we do have one piece of information about Rune Factory 6, which is that it's set in the West, and in a place called Adoni.
I'm not helping you with this one. This is you.
Staying away from pronunciation is probably sensible. All right, cool, fine. Moving on.
Starstruck
Starstruck Vagabond, which amusingly has the same initials as Stardew Valley.
That was my initial thing when I was looking through some of the thing, and they kept referencing their own game as SV, and I was like, you can't do that if you are like even tangentially
I
the
think
genre.
it's a joke. Like the from what so okay, right. Let me give the background for this, because not everybody will know about this game. I suspect most people won't know about this game. So Yahtzee Croshaw is he's I guess a games journalist is probably the best way to describe him. He runs a YouTube series called Zero Punctuation, which at this point in time is part of The Escapist, but has been independent and part of other things. Doesn't matter. Very funny. I really like his game reviews. Very sweary. Always fun. Um, he also though is a game developer, and for most of his professional life has been like that's the thing he's done outside of work. I think during the pandemic, he did a YouTube series called Game Dev Diary, where he developed one game every month for a year. They were obviously really small games, but they were all released. You can play them all, and they were all quite interesting. And he used it as a way to like talk about not game development, but about game design and about what he looks for in games and how to make fun gameplay loops. It was actually a really interesting video series. So if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend going back and watch it. It's really good. Obviously, I think it was 24 episodes, because like one at the beginning of the month, one in the middle of the month, and then one at the end of the month, which merged into the one at the beginning of the month, the next one. Talking about what was going on in that, and it was very interesting. But at the end of that, he then decided to do a new challenge, which was actually developing a proper game. And that's where he came up with this idea of this game, Starstruck Vagabond. I do believe the name came before he realized what the initials were the same as. So I suspect, considering the sort of guy he is, that the constantly referring to it as SV is a joke about Stardew Valley.
That would make sense. And to be fair, in a world of, we exist in a genre where most of the names of games are really bad.
Yes.
And Starstruck Vagabond is a great name. Like,
I suspect it'll end up realistically, if it becomes popular, it'll end up being shortened just as Starstruck, like or Vagabond. Like it won't be shortened as SV. It'll be shortened as one of the names, I suspect.
agree. There's not a huge amount of info about the game other than it's package delivery game in space where you're trying to keep your ship together as one of the core concepts, which I think is an interesting sort of idea.
Yes, yeah. He certainly he's done quite a few more episodes of Dev Diary on the game. So if you do care about it, there's a lot more information out there, but it's just like not on the website. And there are demos and stuff like that from a few months ago. They've not released one in quite a while, but that's not important. Um, but yeah, I mean, he talks about how it was designed as to be a cozy game, and very definitely like focused on the kind of the ideas that came out of Stardew and that sort of stuff. He was one of the few people that at the same time as we were starting up this podcast were seeing that these were going to obviously become a lot more popular than they are, and everybody was going to be making these games. So started talking about that, but yeah, it's a package delivery game. Um, but you go and like visit lots of different planets, and then you can like mine on the planets for resources and stuff, and you have a crew and there's relationship stuff with the crew, and like it's your standard cottagecore game, but instead of farming you're a package deliverer. So, and I guess the reason we're talking about this now, which I haven't said, is because like they're officially making it into a commercial game. Apparently, development is entering its final stages. So I was like, I didn't really want to talk about this really early on because it could have just been like just another thing that he talks about, because he's never actually released a full game. He's just released like these kind of like little ideas for games and stuff. So I didn't really want to kind of talk about it until it was like, but yeah, no, now they're definitely going to commercialize it and release it. They presumably got a publisher, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I suspect it won't come out this year, but maybe next year, probably early next year, and I suspect. Look at me trying to predict all these things. Yeah. Just Life. Oh boy, have you looked at any of the screenshots or videos of this game?
I've watched some of the videos on the Kickstarter for Just Life.
Okay, this is an open world life and farming RPG with a deep narrative and social sim, is what they say. Just Life is a role-playing game and life simulation game focused on narrative and human relationships. You take control of a young man who has just graduated from high school. Life hasn't been easy for him, as he can't afford to go to college due to economic reasons, and he's been unable to find a job because everyone requires work experience. But fate gives him an opportunity, and he inherits an agricultural land. Your mission is to achieve success from scratch, starting with nothing. I mean, it's like your standard premise for a farming game, right? It's nothing. Anyway, this game looks like Second Life.
Yeah, it does.
I'm glad you agree. I'm not being too harsh. Like
No,
it's I don't like it.
it has that weird like we're going for realism, but everything is just a little bit like it's kind of like someone took The Sims and they were like, no, let's make this more photorealistic, but not really look better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, this would have been really good graphics like 15 years ago.
Yes.
And the problem is that realistic graphics generally age really badly. And this has already aged badly and it's not out yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And the game itself has a thing that really, not that I really kickstart games anymore, but this has got a lot of the vibe that would make me not kickstart a game, where it looks super ambitious, right? So if you watch the trailer, this has everything in it. And I guess just in terms of the overall premises, it's kind of like modern day.
Sorry, I just saw a bit where they were. He went to talk to someone and the body moved and the head didn't.
Oh yeah.
Like I know that's something that can be fixed. That's not a knock on the game. It's early footage, but that was just horrible to watch. Horrifying. Oh, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no, but it's
I'll
really
stop
ambitious,
watching
right?
the video now.
So they've got all of your usual farming stuff, object placement, building, fishing, proper farming, relationships. You can ride bikes, you can drive cars. There's just so much in it. Is only asking for like 14,000 USD to be fully funded, and you just can't do much with such a small amount of money. So
I feel really
yeah,
bad because this is
Yep.
clearly like an individual person is trying to make their dream a reality, and they're not succeeding because they only have $215 pledged with like just over half the time to go, so it's not getting funded. Um, but yeah, I don't. I think I like the idea of like a kind of narrative driven cottagecore game. Um, More so that like Stardew Valley did really well, but it's still limited because it's not there isn't really an overarching story, and what it did well was the like small relationships, and I like the idea of an actually, you know, properly narrative driven cottagecore game with an overarching story. I think that's an interesting way to go, but as you say, I think you need to do less.
Yeah, like to me, this seems like a really good sort of like first cut,
Mm-hmm.
and I would be really excited for the developer or to team up with some other people and to find a way to focus the idea on that narrative
Mm-hmm.
side. Because I agree, that's to me that's the part of the game that I was like, oh, this is interesting, right? Because even the fact that it was you're specifically playing this 18-year-old man that's just graduated, like it was very specific about the sorts
Mm-hmm.
of relationships. And a lot of cottagecore games have gone in there where you can you're effectively putting yourself into the shoes of the protagonist, which
Mm-hmm.
always comes with the downside that there is a only so deep that you can go with the relationships because they need to work for almost anyone in any situation.
Yeah.
And this could get a lot more um, deep and interesting, but it just feels way too ambitious
Yeah.
for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it has lots of. Like, I really like some of the ideas that it's doing. Like, it's talking about how it's really intensive to cut down a tree. So like there's multiple different things that they're doing to get to the point where they've actually got a cut down tree, and you have to like, do three different steps to actually cut it down, and then you have to cut it into logs and then smaller logs to actually carry it. Like, I like the idea of all that. I don't think I want to play that.
Yep.
Oh, they do have sprinklers.
Al is getting lured back in.
I'm
Some
in.
good
I'm in.
automation.
Oh dear. Yeah, no, I'm sad. I really hope that this person can continue to develop games because I think they have some really interesting ideas.
Well, and I hope this is the sort of thing, right, where it's like not everything needs to get funded, but this could be a good platform for this person to make some connections or um, find some other people that see something in the game and maybe get a bit of a bigger team behind
Yeah,
an idea.
that's true. That's true. All right. Next, we've got Natsumon 20th Century Summer Vacation. Now, a little bit of background for this. This was actually announced in March. It was announced in the Nintendo Direct in March, specifically the Japanese Nintendo Direct in March. I didn't talk about it at the time, but I knew I wanted to talk about it at some point. Talking about it now. This has only been announced for Japan, so don't get too excited. This is, I believe, like a long-running series of games in Japan, the Natsumon series. Um, and this is the new one in it. And I so the little blurb that was kind of translated into English is enjoy a special summer vacation filled with nostalgic spectacles like thunderous clouds, evening sunsets, and the sound of cicadas. I really like it's got very specific style to it, shall we say, which I think you'll either really like or really hate. It's I'm just seeing the water now, and all I can think of is Wind Waker, which I feel like I compare so many games to Wind Waker.
Yeah, you do. But you told me to not be too excited about this, Al, and so I am not that excited about this.
Good, thank you. You're doing what I say. I mean, I'm probably not going to play it unless it's certainly not going to play it if they don't do a Western release, which we don't have any information for. Um, I, I, I don't know. I think I'd need more. I need more information before I made a decision on this. Um, but I have played weirder games for this podcast, shall we say?
Yeah, that is undoubtedly a true statement, but yeah, until this gets a Western release, it's kind of like well, there's so many other games that this one just will not occupy any brain space for.
Speaking of weirder games, we have Grandma Green. which definitely sounds like a character in Cluedo.
Oh my god, yes, it does.
For the Americans, that's the game that you call Clue, because apparently Cluedo was too complicated a name.
It would be too complicated for Americans to
Oh,
understand.
I didn't mean that, Johnny.
Well,
Most
I
of our
did mean that,
most
so.
of our listeners are American, Johnny.
Yeah. And
Like
you know what
90%
generates
of them.
engagement? Outrage. Outrage, L.
Americans, you dumb. Um, uh, yeah, I don't know why like they named it Clue in America. It's such a generic name. Where Cluedo, like nothing else is Cluedo, whereas Clue could mean so many different things. Anyway, not important. Grandma Green in the kitchen with the knife. So this is a game about. Nope, reading the wrong one there. So play as an adorable grandma, bring talking plants to life, and cultivate the garden of your dreams. This is currently out on the Apple App Store for free, and it's coming to Android soon.
I have played about 5 minutes of
Oh, you
Grandma
downloaded
Green.
it? Nice.
I downloaded it.
Go on, let us know.
Um,
What is it
it's
like?
it's cute. Like it's got a really nice art style for a mobile game.
Mm-hmm.
It like seems to control well. It seems to have kind of your basic farming stuff, but I think from or so far like the first plant that you get to grow is a tulip. So I'm hoping it's more like flowers rather than
Yeah.
vegetables and things like that because this is one of the things I'm actually kind of looking for farming games. Is like we've done the food thing to death, right? Like the flowers are this whole area of farming games that is always in there, but there's never really anything to do with the flowers. You kind of grow the flowers, and then it's like
The most that anyone
harvest
does
them.
is like it changes your honey.
Yes, exactly. So it has these really minor effects where you can be like, well, I kind of want to do it, but it's just an inefficient version of growing food. So why bother? So I'm hoping that this one is yeah, just more focused on flowers and other sorts of plants, which is exciting. But it looks cute. It's kind of easy to play. Like, I mean, I'm not far enough in to provide any real update on whether or not it seems like the sort of game that I will stick with or not. But yes, I am playing. I am playing Grandma Green.
You'll either play it or you won't, and you'll either keep playing it or you won't.
Pretty much. But you know, it's free. So if you've free if you've got a Apple device.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I might play it a little bit on my iPad, but I feel like it'll work better on a phone, so I might just wait for the Android one. Right. Okay. You can try pronouncing this next one.
Grimoire Groves.
Grimoire. Let's
Yeah.
go with it then. Grimoire. I was like, I have no idea where even to start with this one. Grimoire Groves, a game about growing plants and friendships with your witch magic. We don't really have a huge amount of information about this game at this point, so we've got like some small screenshots and a few very short clips. And you have to like scroll back in Twitter to see them. Mostly it's just there's a Kickstarter coming soon.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to be honest. This is coming a little bit late for the whole witches and farming game.
There are
thing.
so many witches and farming games. It's suddenly like I think about like a year ago they just all popped up suddenly. I mean I get it, it's cottagecore, right? Or maybe this is more goblin core. Is that the that's the one that's more focused on this sort of thing, I think.
This might have a foot in both camps.
Oh, there's a lot of overlap between cottagecore and goblin core, but I feel like goblin core is more of like a subset of cottagecore, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I keep going back to the thing I read on Wikipedia that I had to go back to double check the exact wording, but the on Goblin Core, which is it has also been noted as having a significant number of LGBT plus and specifically non-binary proponents, with a common catchphrase being "No gender, only bugs." That's all I can think about.
In a gaming thing, to have only bugs is maybe not the tagline you want to be going with.
But yeah, I feel like the kind of overlap of the witchy farming games and Goblin Core is very much very heavily focused on LGBT people, in my experience. Revenant Hill is the next one. I was not expecting to have a game come out of the PlayStation Showcase that we were going to talk about, other than in the introduction when I talk about Spider-Man. But here we have Revenant Hill. It's 1919 and Twigs the cat has a dream. Find a safe place to sleep and put down roots. Grow some radishes, get a job, eat mice, do dangerous things with new friends, and build something together in a world falling apart.
To be honest, as far as taglines go, this is a great one. Like, I love the specificity of grow some radishes.
Yeah, specifically radishes. You know, the food that cats like to eat. I don't.
uh,
This is by the developer of Night in the Woods, if that is important to people. I feel like that's important background
I'm
knowledge.
pretty sure that is important to people because Night in the Woods is an amazing game.
I have not played it,
You,
and it's very much
what?
not cottagecore.
What?
It's not
Al?
cottagecore, is it?
It
Is it not like an action adventure game?
No, no,
No?
no, no. It's a narrative like cozy. Okay, Al, you need to play Night in the Woods.
Oh,
You
no.
will. I would be shocked if you do not enjoy Night in the Woods.
Oh, not more games.
It's so good, and I don't want to say more because so much of what is great about Night in the Woods is the story that's told. And like, while it might not directly be a cottagecore game, I think there is a lot that happens in Night of the Woods that is like a precursor for so much of what's popular now.
Ugh. Ugh, what are you making me do? Fine, it's on my wish list. I'll buy it when it's cheap.
Yes. Yes. Episode on Night in the Woods coming sometime in 2025.
Anyway, this has very similar art style, as you would expect. I'm intrigued to see how the cat thing works. Like that's a new trend, isn't it? Like things people are being cats in games now.
Well, that was so Night in the Woods was a cat. So
Oh, were you? Okay. Well, yeah, just there was the big one on PlayStation last year. What was that? Stray. I feel like that is coming, and like in a year's time, there's going to be 20 games where you can play as a cat coming out. I'm not
yeah.
saying that's a bad thing, by the way.
Oh,
I'm finding it interesting, and I'm really are you saying it's a bad thing? I'm really liking. Like I have done a lot of predicting things not publicly that I've seen going forward. Like the whole reason I have this podcast is because I was predicting things coming. So maybe I'm trying to share some of those things publicly, and we'll see whether I get the credit for it or not. Cats are coming.
You will not. Cats are coming.
I will.
Stray was that the game?
Yeah, I did say I did say
You
Stray.
did say. Sorry, I accidentally clicked the YouTube link for Revenant Hill, and I just got like blasted with the with like an ad for something.
Oh right. Oh, ads.
So
I
I may
keep
have
forgetting
missed
that ads exist on YouTube because I've had YouTube
Uh.
Premium for about 4 years now. It's so good. Although I should say it's so good because YouTube with ads is so terrible. Whatever. Music's great in this trailer. Yeah, we'll see what happens with this one. And our final game to talk about is Circle of Kerzoven.
Yeah, that's how I would say this one.
Let's go with that anyway. This is a village building strategy game paired with rich simulation experience. And I'm sure there will be people who will like this game, and I'm not going to play it.
Yeah, this is also a trend that's coming with these like cottagecore meets strategy style games. Because I think we've talked about some previously, and you have to forgive me because I'm not going to remember the names of them because there's just too many games that have been announced. But there's a few sort of in this genre. But I do like the art style that this one's going for because it's that kind of blocky, low detail, but it looks good. I don't know.
Yes.
That was a
No,
terrible way of describing it.
I get what you mean. Either Kevin or Micah would be much better at describing this than us. There is a term for this type of game, and I can't remember what it is. But yes, I know what you mean. It's like 3D 8-bit. I always like to describe it as. Like it's not 8-bit, it's not pixel art, but it's the 3D equivalent.
Let's go with that. I like
Low
3D.
poly. Low poly.
Low poly. There we go.
That's what it is. Like you can see all of the polygons and everything. Like you can see the polygons in the trees, but it's not a bad thing. They look good. It's stylized, not just old. That's the key point. Yeah, I mean, it looks good graphics wise. I don't think I'll let you and Kevin do this episode, right? Like I'm not a city builder guy anymore. Like that's not It's not what I'm looking for. And adding on the strategy game aspect to it means that everything I do matters, and I will just constantly be stressed by the fact that I'm probably not doing things perfectly. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's got Kickstarter
soon.
coming soon.
Soon. Like most things.
whatever that
So of
whatever
all of
that
the games
means.
we've talked about today, all of these new games, none of
Oh.
them are coming out this year, right? They're
Well, so
all.
that one actually says it's coming out this year.
It's not coming
Um,
out this year.
it's not coming out this year. They've not even released a Kickstarter, but they say it's coming out this year. Grandma Green's already out, and I'm guessing the Android version will come out this year. The rest of them haven't said. Natsumon is coming out this year in Japan. It's coming out in July. I didn't actually say that, did I? It's coming out on the 28th of July in Japan. But yeah, nothing out. None of the others are coming out this year, I don't think. But they haven't said, which is how you know. If we're almost in June and they don't say when it's coming out, that means it's not coming out this year. All right.
Right, is that? Sorry, I have a small Grandma Green update because
Oh,
I
go
have
for it.
definitely not been playing in the background. But my tulip has come to life and is now a plant golem that's wandering
Absolutely
around.
amazing.
I may have not read exactly what the point of a plant golem is, but I now need to make my tulip that is walking around happy, and I'm kind of into this. This seems.
I am willing to give it a try. Certainly, I like the idea of it. We'll see how it goes.
The one downside is it does seem like things grow on a real time clock, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Oh yay, real
Because I
time.
feel, yeah, I feel like I might be about to walk into microtransaction like, please
No.
pay for your plant to, So, anyway, that's my update on Grandma Green.
Oh, it's Animal Crossing all over again.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining me, Johnny, to talk about all these hundreds of games, these millions of games. I can't believe I
I feel
added
like
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Added 10 games to my list of games coming out, which is now 81 games long.
that is too many games.
Yes, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. Like, I think it's kind of showing the power of the cottagecore game industry, right? That there's so many games coming out. There's a number of games that we're expecting to sort of see through the back half of this year. Delays notwithstanding, because they're just a fact of life now. But
Half of
it's
the
been
games on
fun.
my list say they're coming out in 2023. Half of them. They're not. They're not. Awesome. I don't know. Am I still to ask you where people can find you on the internet? Because I've done it every time and you never have anything.
I never have anything other than, if you're an American and you want to yell at me about how Americans are not in fact stupid and try and justify why Clue is a good name, the easiest way to do that is you can go to patreon.com/thspod, sign up for the Patreon. You can join our Slack. That's where I am, and you can yell at me there.
Thank you, Johnny. You can find me on the internet. You can find me on Twitter at @thescottbot. You can also find me with the same username on mastodon.scott. You can find the podcast on Twitter at thspod. You can find links to everything, including the Patreon that Johnny talked about, on our website, harvestseason.club, where you can also send feedback through the feedback form. I think that's everything. I am really tired right now. I don't know why. I think that's everything. It's been really warm today. That's probably taken out of me. And it is nearly 10 o'clock. I think that's everything. Thank you again, Johnny. And thank you, everybody, for listening to this wild episode. Until next time, have a
Have a
good
good
harvest.
harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin and Stuart. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode.
So many games.
I
And then we
just-
wasted so much time at the start talking about Zelda.
Look. It's fine. It's less than an hour and a half. It's not a long episode.
Great.